Thank you, everyone, for joining. This is going to be the third of our series, but the first for Mrs. Paymar to be joining us on our monthly meet. It's a pleasure always. Just to introduce, Mrs. Paymar is one of the mentors in the Rebbitzins Shadchan program, and is also a licensed clinical social worker. And she joined our team just a little bit ago, and already, Baruch Hashem, in full blast. Here we go with starting this series about about such a special topic, the topic of listening and sharing, and how to handle your dating communication and how to take your communication to the next level. I'll give you over the stage, Mrs. Paymar.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Mushayev. And I want to thank as well Rebbitzin Sarah Browski, who has been so helpful in bringing me on with Ura, and really in the truly outstanding programming that you have for Ura singles. I'm just, it's wonderful to have the opportunity to participate with you. I also want to give a thank you to Mrs. Frady Darabanner, who gave the first two presentations in the series, because she laid down such a clear foundation for the step-by-step process in dating for marriage. So I'm going to be really referring back to what she said, and I think what we're going to be discussing today is going to be a very nice additional dimension to that foundation which she provided for us. A special thank you to the Rabbono Sha'olam for enabling each of us to be here, and Imsei Hashem to learn some helpful skills and ideas together. So what I'd like to share with you this evening is two themes. I'm going to weave them together. The first is power listen, power share. It's an approach to interactions in dating that really can take conversations to the next level, regardless of the topic. It helps dating couples to have meaningful exchanges and to build trust. And again, this is building to see, are we becoming friends? Are we building toward that special friendship and potentially toward marriage? The second theme that I'm going to weave in is the Mida, the beautiful habit of appreciation. So I'm going to share with you the steps for power listen, power share, and include appreciation, expressing appreciation. And what I want to mention here is that ideally, it's really important to find a way to express genuine appreciation at least twice in every date, starting with even phone calls to prepare for a date. They should be appropriate to the phase of dating, obviously, but we all are nurtured by appreciation. It is such a beautiful habit to develop in ourselves, to build into our dating, and then on into marriage and relationships with children and every other important relationship. It really can't be stated too much. I think we all do it, and we can all do it more. So just to give a very simple example, a young lady I was mentoring said to me she was out on a date and she was so impressed. The restaurant was closing and the waiter came over. They had finished and they were talking and very politely said, "I'm so sorry, but we're closing." And so she said her date handled it just with humor. He was so sweet. He was so nice about it. And I said to her afterwards, when she and I were talking, "Well, did you let him know that? How much you appreciated the way you handled that? It was potentially awkward. You guys had just started dating." No, she hadn't. So just to say, there's small things that happen many times in a single evening or a single date. And just for us to really be paying attention, what are those moments when we're feeling that appreciation, to go ahead and put that into words. So the approach that I like to share with you, I draw from author and therapist Shaya Ostrov. He's written several books, including 2 on shidduchim. And I also draw on really the best clinical research and wisdom on couples communication. So power listen, power share. There are 4 steps to this communication process. And my goal this evening is to leave you with these 4 steps in a way that you can implement them on your next date. What we need to do first is I'm going to invite you to take a quarter turn with me. A quarter turn from really a typical approach to going out on a date, let's say with someone new or someone that you have just recently started dating. I'm going to invite you to drop your list, drop that list of requirements, and make the assumption, if this is a reasonable person, the assumption is I'm going to have several dates with this person. Let's say about 4. So what we're dropping is, I can tell on a first impression, I can tell in one video chat, I'm just not getting the right vibe from this person. He's not for me. So I actually spoke with a young lady and had a conversation that went very much like that. Her mom had asked me to talk with her and see if she was interested in mentoring. And we had a nice video chat, lovely young lady, very accomplished. And she was absolutely certain that she could tell from one video chat if she wanted to go forward with someone. Well, she was an older single and still single. So that approach, I think, is not realistic, is not helpful, and really misses the whole point. It's meaningless to say that, oh, I hope that the guy that I'm dating is going to be at a 9. The only thing that's meaningful is our relationship building toward a 9? Are we building something together in each interaction, in many interactions, step by step, that is building our relationship in a beautiful way? So that's what I'm inviting you to make that shift with me as we talk about power listen and power share. So I hope to answer the question, how do I invite conversations that build trust and a foundation for friendship? Okay. And what I'm going to be doing during the steps that we're going to go over, I'm also going to be inviting you, pay close attention. Pay attention to your own experience in the conversation. So pay attention to your date, his emotional tone, what he is willing to share and comfortable sharing. Is it enjoyable? Does it feel safe? And what is my comfort level in this conversation? These are all extremely important and really go to the heart of power listen and power share. I want to get a sense and to really ask myself, am I building that foundation of trust in these interactions? Am I feeling that? Are we becoming a good friend? I'd like to take an example from something that would be a sort of a typical topic of conversation for an early date, something that we would consider kind of one of the safer topics. I'm going to mention a few, and if you want to add something in the chat to Rabbi Mushaif, that's just fine. But the ones that I'm thinking of are things like talking about work, talking about other interests outside of work, recreation, hobbies, vacations, chesed projects. So I hope that sounds like sort of a reasonable, those are the kinds of things that would come up typically, I think, in an early date. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share a conversation that I had with a young man that I was coaching. So in the process of coaching him, I was asking him one of these questions so that he and I could practice together the power listen, power share. So what I've done is I've changed all the identifying information, but I've kept the actual true essence of this conversation that I had with someone quite recently. I'm going to just state briefly the 4 steps to power listen, power share. Then we're going to go through this dialogue. I'm going to call the young man Avi, and in the dialogue that I'm going to share with you, I'm Avi's date. And then we're going to break it down. So the 4 steps, and I'll be reviewing them. 1 is I'm going to open a safe topic of conversation with an open-ended question. I'm choosing my topic carefully, and I'm going to make sure that I'm asking an open-ended question, not a yes, no question. That's step 1. The next part of step 1 is I'm actually going to repeat back to Avi, remember I'm Avi's date, what he said in response to me in my own words. And I'm going to share on a feeling level if I move to do that, if it is appropriate to this stage of the date. I'm going to be open to sharing from a genuine place to what he shares with me. That's step 1. Step 2 is I'm going to ask Avi for more details. So he shared with me the topic I'm going to pick is something that he does for recreation. And I'm going to ask him, he shared what he does. I'm going to ask him to share more information. I'm interested. I'd like to know more. I'd like to know about this. Make space for him to share. And then again, I'm going to repeat back in my own words with genuine feeling what his response is. The 3rd step is what I call the gentle power question. The question is there more? So I'm opening the door. If there has been sharing of something that is potentially meaningful, this may be a place where someone really opens themselves, again, in an appropriate way, even in an early date, to something of real meaning to them, which I can then respond to. And it's fine if they don't. It's surprising how often it does happen. So once I ask the gentle power question, is there more? I'm again going to repeat that in my own words back to Avi. And again, if I am moved or touched or really interested, whatever my genuine feelings are, I'm going to include those as I repeat back to him. The 4th step is the appreciation. So I'm going to express just thanks. Thank you for sharing this with me. And then I'm going to add, I'm paying attention to my own feelings. Was this meaningful to me in some way? Do I feel like I've really learned something important about him? Has this helped me understand him in a different way? And if so, I can share that as part of my appreciation. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the example with the dialogue with Avi. So remember, I'm Avi's date, and this is a real conversation with the identifying information changed. Okay, so if you happen to have pen and paper handy, there may be times when I may just ask you, make a note in 1 or 2 words of your internal experience. Okay, because I'm going to ask you to pay attention on a feeling level to your experience of this dialogue. Okay, you can remember it in your head. I like to write things down. Whatever works for you is great. So in this case, I asked Avi what he likes to do for recreation and open-ended questions. So Avi, I would love to know, we talked about your work, your learning. I'd love to know what you do just to unwind. What do you do kind of for downtime? And what Avi said is, well, I'm in a ping pong league. I play ping pong twice a week with the guys, and I'm really regular and I enjoy it. And that's really kind of one of my big downtime activities. Okay. So, sidebar, I'm going to repeat back in my own words. So, Avi, wow. So you have a pretty serious ping pong hobby. You're in a league, and it sounds like it's something you really enjoy doing in your downtime. Okay. Sidebar, if you want to jot a word or two, how my response might have felt to Avi, right? When I repeated in my own words. Okay. Second step is I'm going to ask for more information. Back to the dialogue. So Avi, I would love to learn more about your ping pong, how you got that started, and just more about how you're involved in ping pong. So Avi says to me, well, actually, I started in elementary school. My parents went to the JCC. They liked to work out. They had a kid care program. And so I got to stay in the kid care program while they worked out. And the kid care program had ping pong. So I started playing ping pong. I was probably, fourth grade or so. And then I just really liked it. And I kept it up through middle school. And then in high school, I joined this league. And I really enjoy it. I have a nice group of friends and I'm still doing it. Just the greatest relaxation for me. Okay, sidebar. Now I'm going to repeat that in my own words. And I'm going to include my feelings. So Avi, wow, this is something you've been doing for a long time, since grade school. So you have really been involved with this and you put a lot of time into it. And you obviously got really good because you're in a league. I mean, I know that leagues compete, so you've been competing and you've been with this. It sounds like it's an important part of your life. That's wonderful. And make a note. What is your inner experience? To my response to Avi, I asked him for more details, and then I repeated back in my own words. Okay. So now, number 3, the gentle power question. So, Avi, is there more you'd like to tell me about your experience playing ping pong for all these years? So Avi says, well, actually, it turned out to be a lifesaver because when I got to high school, I was terrible at team sports. I went to a public high school. We had to do team sports. They were, they were required for physical education. And I was bullied. I was teased. It was awful. And ping pong was really just, it was great. I excelled. I had my group of friends. It was just a saving grace for me through high school. And I honestly feel like I was a good student, but I think I could have just withdrawn even from my academic interests. Like ping pong really kept me on an even keel because it gave me that success and that great social outlet, good friends, and really helped me through the high school years. And I enjoyed it so much, I'm doing it to this day. Excuse me 1 second. I have something going on here I just need to take care of. Now I'm gonna repeat back what I heard from him. So, Avi, it really sounds like ping pong has been an important part of your life and really helped you through those difficult teen years and kind of kept you feeling successful when the problems in school and the problems with team sports and being bullied could have been so demoralizing. It was so important for you. I'm so glad for you that you had this. And I so appreciate your sharing with me. I really feel like I've gotten to understand you better through talking about what ping pong has meant to you. Okay, sidebar. Just make a little note of your inner experience. The last step after the power question, I'm weaving in both my saying back to Avi what I heard him say in my own words, and including that appreciation, which you can see would flow very naturally from the conversation. So because of the 4 steps, the conversation has very organically moved to a deeper, meaningful level than it otherwise might. And so by the time I've asked the power question, and if Avi chooses to respond, in this case he did, it's a very natural place for me to express appreciation and share some of my own, what it's meant to me to have this exchange with him. Okay. Again, through this process, I'm noticing how he's interacting, his body language, his tone is, you could tell from the content that Avi in this case was really quite open with me. And so I'm noticing I'm really liking the fact that he was open. I feel like this is someone I can talk to and have meaningful conversations with. And I'm paying attention to my own comfort level. And I'm feeling wonderful that he felt that he could, there's already enough trust where he could share something quite personal, appropriate to a 3rd or 4th date, but quite personal and meaningful. And it felt wonderful. It felt really good. So I'm going to be asking myself those questions. Are we building trust? Is this really moving to a solid friendship? And with this kind of conversation, I would probably come away with the feeling, yes. As Mrs. Darabanner would say, Avi and I have probably taken a step up the ladder of the relationship potentially toward marriage. So what I'd like to do, we could do a couple of different things. What I'd really love to do is pick a topic and do a live role play with one of you, if someone feels willing to do that. I'd like to pick a topic that should be pretty easy and comfortable for someone to respond to my questions. You're just going to be responding to my questions as is comfortable for you. And I thought the topic I would pick would be, let's say, a chesed project. Okay. So, and when I say responding at a comfortable level, I want to take the opportunity to mention, it's possible in any conversation, someone, let's say even early in dating, someone might touch on a topic that is extremely personal for me. I'm going to give you an example. I was working with a young lady, and she was not yet at her mother's yard site. It was just a few months after her mother had passed away. She met someone, they were dating, and of course she shared that her mother had passed away. And this gentleman was concerned and interested and was asking her for a lot of details. As it turned out, it was a very difficult situation with a long and difficult illness. And she said to me, Elisheva, I don't really feel like I want to talk with him about this yet. And my response was, absolutely respect your feelings. In other words, share something, share whatever you feel comfortable sharing at this point, and say, I can let you know more, maybe later on, after we've known each other a bit longer. Please respect your comfort level and keep yourselves emotionally safe throughout the dating process. So that will apply here as well. If the Chesed project, if something in our conversation happens to touch on something highly personal, please do not share that. Just stay, I like to think about the 1 to 10 scale, from totally surface to my most personal topic is a 10. So please stay in like a 3 to 5 range as we do the role play. And please keep this in mind in your early dating also. The same thing would apply. So we can do this if you would like to. And I'm just going to ask if there is anyone who would be interested in going through just the 4 steps for just one more review. I'm just going to repeat. This is what I'm hoping that you will take away from our discussion this evening. The 4 steps to power listen, power share. First, open a topic of conversation appropriate for where you are in dating. So early in dating, that's going to be one of those safe topics. And open the conversation with an open-ended question, not a yes/no question. Then I'm going to repeat in my own words what the person answered. Second step, I'm going to ask for more information. I'm interested. I'd love to hear more about this. And invite the person to share more. And then again, I'm going to repeat what I heard them say with genuine emotion as that is appropriate. Third step is the gentle power question. Is there more? Is there more you'd like to share with me about this? And if he says yes, then I'm going to, again, follow that same process. I'm going to repeat back in my own words what I heard him say. I'm going to engage my own feelings to share those with him. And I'm going to be really tuning in to his responses, both the verbal and the nonverbal, my own emotions in the process, and asking myself the question, so am I building trust with this person? Am I building a foundation for a relationship where I feel like this has potential? This is someone I can share with in a meaningful way, and we can potentially move the relationship forward toward marriage. So those are the 4 steps. I thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure to see everyone here. And I look forward to hearing your questions. I'm not sure I completely understand the question. I'm going to read it and I'm going to do my best to the best of my understanding. There's one word I'm not exactly sure what it totally means. Here it is. How would a neurotypical dater relate to someone who's not as open or in touch with their feelings? If one person is very open and the other is not, is there a way to level the playing field so that neither party becomes resentful of the other? I'm going to take that to mean neurotypical. I'm going to take to mean someone who's pretty emotionally connected and open about their feelings. Dating someone who may be more cerebral and less emotionally connected. So what I'm going to say is the power listen, power share is actually a wonderful way to move past that barrier of the guy's always in his head. And I think, again, it's a decision. I think that most often we do want to connect with someone for marriage where we can have conversations on a meaningful emotional level. Doesn't have to be all the time. Someone could be a scientist, someone could be an engineer, someone could be this really great, smart guy who's in his head a lot. But it's very important to know that you can have these conversations as you need to, and we can always nurture the relationship with appreciation. That really does shift things, I think, in any relationship. If I'm just generous, expressing genuine appreciation, that also does over time, I think, help shift and create a little bit more openness and a little bit more emotional awareness on the part of the other person. So I hope that answers the question. I'm very happy to hear if there are any others.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the power, like the gentle power thing, I feel like it's very, I don't know, I guess like it just feels like a little bit vulnerable to ask, like, is there anything else? Not vulnerable, the word is like maybe just like too deep to ask, like the question, like, is there anything else you want to share with me? Like on a first or second date, like I just feel like it sounds, I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it sounds a little bit too like such a deep question. I don't know.
Okay, I think I do. And what I'm going to say is first, stay with your comfort level. I think it depends on the guy, and I think it depends on the topic. If you're on a really safe topic, it may be more that you're genuinely curious and interested. And is there more that you want to share? Really could be totally, totally fine. If you're feeling that, you know, again, depending on how the first two interactions have gone, we're already building, you're sharing information, you're sharing some emotions, you're sharing some details, that I would trust you. If you feel like that's just kind of as far as I want to go because it's an early day, stop there. And if you feel like, is there more you'd like to share, is actually, you can see how it could be. The feedback that I get for the most part is it feels like a pretty safe question. Again, if you're not feeling it, please go with your comfort level. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm not sure if you saw my question. I sent it into, I don't know who it was. I like what you're saying about the step-by-step process. I think it makes sense logically, but I feel like it's a bit stilted and drawn out. Like it doesn't feel so natural to me.
That's actually a great question. So what I'm going to say is that it is definitely not the usual way that we have conversations. And so it feels awkward. I can pretty much guarantee that as you start, if you decide you want to try this, it feels awkward initially. Even though the steps, as you see, are very simple, they're not the way we usually have conversations. The interesting thing is, if you feel like experimenting a little bit and trying, the results are actually very surprising. So it does feel uncomfortable to say because we're expressing ourselves differently and we have it planned out. It's generally received very, very well. So yeah, I would just say it gets more comfortable over time. It is absolutely awkward and stilted when a person starts doing it because it's not how we usually talk, 100%. And I would still suggest that it works wonderfully.
I guess it just kind of feels like pretty robotic. Like if I'm more, I guess, just I talk pretty quickly. I guess I don't think as much so deeply into how I'm phrasing my sentences. Yeah, I mean, I wrote it down. I guess I can try it next time I go on a date.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is, here's what I think is a good analogy, kind of a good analogy. We talk about, we don't want our dates to be like job interviews, right? We don't want to be questioning the guy like, do you meet the qualifications?
Right.
In one respect, I think preparing for a date is a little bit like preparing for a job interview. Don't we want to have some good questions to ask? Don't we want to think carefully about some questions we want to ask the person who's interviewing us? So I think to really be thoughtful and planful for a date is very appropriate. I think it is not necessarily usual. Doesn't mean to say that every date and every minute of every date is going to be like this and planned out, but to have as part of a date some of the time to be open to having this kind of dialogue. As I say, I think it moves things to another level. I'll give you another example. We get feedback, couples going out, they've had several dates, they, seem to be pretty compatible. And then it's like, well, I'm just not feeling excited. Like this person seems to be a nice person, but I'm kind of feeling stuck. Right? Like I'm not feeling fireworks. I'm not feeling like, swept off my feet. Like, so I don't know if I should go on. So I feel like the power listen, power share really addresses that because it gives an opportunity to have focused conversations on meaningful topics that will really give you a sense. There's nothing more exciting than feeling that someone is listening deeply or someone is responding from a genuine emotional place to something that's meaningful to me. So this is the real excitement. The real excitement is coming to a place where I'm listening, I'm understanding, I'm expressing caring. And when that goes two ways, that's the excitement that can really build that beautiful foundation, build that trust, and build a sense of, yes, I think I want to spend more time with this person.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Great question. Thank you for the question.
We have another question over here. How do you deal with a situation where your date is, more outgoing, more open, and you might be a little bit more on the reserved side, or vice versa, that, you're more outgoing and they are more reserved? How do you level it out that it should be, that it shouldn't be awkward or whatever?
So that's also a great question. And, I think we probably all know great couples where one's the outgoing one and the other is more reserved, right? Doesn't mean you can't be a great couple. I think the power listen, power share is, let's say if the girl is more reserved, that to have a chance to give some thought beforehand. Okay, so maybe I'm going to ask him about a great vacation he had, or what he likes to do in his downtime, or has said. Having some idea about what I want to talk about and also knowing how I want to approach the conversation, I think can also give a little bit more confidence. I know I'm going to be focused. I'm taking a little bit of charge here. I'm not just waiting. I'm not just going to expect him to entertain me. I have some things that I know I want to bring up and discuss. Again, kind of like, I think I'm going to feel a little more confident going into a job interview, lahavdil, if I have some really thought out questions that I want to ask, some really things that I want to talk about to figure out if I actually want this job. So I think it can help give the confidence. We're not going to change the basic personality. Someone's more outgoing and someone is more reserved, but either person can engage in these kinds of meaningful exchanges. I would just say, if you want to experiment, try it and give us feedback. Okay, so one question, if it's a later date and you still don't feel comfortable sharing the deeper things with the guy, so what I'm going to say, it sounds like there are a couple of possibilities here. Is the guy simply not responding? Do you feel not invited to share? Not quite safe to share? Does he talk over you all the time? Is he dismissive? Does he listen to you and then change the subject? Well, that's not very inviting. So if someone has, if a guy has that pattern, I would say that's a question. Is that someone that you really feel like you want to build a relationship with? Or is that the kind of thing where, again, by date 4 or 5, you may say, you know what, I'm seeing this over and over again. I don't really feel invited or safe to share with him because he doesn't seem to listen very well and he doesn't seem to care very much. Okay, so that's one scenario. So this could be a really good sort of test of maybe this is someone I don't want to go forward with if I'm still not feeling comfortable sharing. The other possibility is we all have our vulnerabilities. Is there something that is do I have a vulnerability that maybe I need to, could be something that has happened to me, something I've gone through, something that I haven't quite processed, an area where maybe I need to grow because I'm feeling vulnerable in this area? I would say explore with a mentor. It may be something a mentor can help with. It may be something that a therapist can help with. Again, people grow tremendously with the right guidance and can really grow to a different place of feeling that confidence and security and ability to share those more personal things. If you're noticing a barrier, good for you for noticing. And I would just say, pay attention and take care of yourself. Get some advice from someone you trust in how to take care of yourself if that vulnerability is holding you back in your dating.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else before we finish?
I just see a couple of other questions here. Let me look at them quickly. So if I ask a question, says, what about when someone you ask, they're not ready to share so much? What's a good way to kind of change the topic of conversation? I guess if I asked a question about what someone does for recreation, and then I said, so I'd be really interested to hear more about it, and the person seems to be super uncomfortable. So what I would say is, if this is really a safe topic of conversation and the person gets super uncomfortable with my saying, this sounds really interesting, I'd love to know more about it, that's going to be potentially a red flag for me. If it's really a safe topic, I hope you understand what I'm saying, and the person really, really kind of overreacts to my just being curious and interested, I kind of wonder, what would that be about? If it's a personal topic, so for example, Mrs. Darabanner talked about sharing a vulnerability. So I might potentially, let's say if I've shared something about myself, and let's say the guy listened pretty nicely, and I felt like, he cared, he was interested. And then let's say the next day, he doesn't offer to share anything with me. And I just say, I shared this about myself last time, and I just wondered, what's something that you're working on about yourself? I shared something with you that I'm working on. Would you want to share with me something that you're working on? And if he just kind of doesn't want to, if that seems very uncomfortable for him, again, I would want to gauge. If this is very early in the dating, maybe my question was premature. How was my timing with talking about the vulnerability? But if it's farther on in the dating, and again, from the last lectures, we're looking for a growing person. if someone gets super uncomfortable with the question, like I've already shared, here's something that is a challenge for me, a personal challenge that I'm not totally happy about. And here's how I'm working on growing and improving myself. And then I invite the guy to share, well, where's an area where you're growing? And he kind of doesn't want to go there. Well, that would raise the question, wouldn't it? Is this a growing person? Is this someone who can look at himself and have some insight? We're all flawed. We all need to be growing. So if I get a very strong reaction, again, all of these reactions that you're writing about, they're such great questions because these are the responses that help us check in with ourselves. Is this someone I feel like I can have meaningful interactions with? Or is this someone where there's a roadblock and I really feel like I'm doing my part to share and be genuine, and the other person really can't meet me there? So would that possibly be a red flag about, is this someone I can really build that friendship with, or are there going to be pretty severe limitations? So I would say use all of these observations, use them to help them inform you about, what do I want to do with this relationship? And again, I so encourage anyone who would like to avail yourselves of the mentorship program, because it's so helpful just to have someone who's experienced with these kinds of questions, just to run it by. Is this a great guy and I'm expecting too much? Or is this kind of a red flag that could really be a barrier? Don't try to figure it out by yourself. It's too hard. It's just too hard. Get input.
Okay, thank you very much for that.